Welcome back, everyone. We're killing WoW one episode at a time. Welcome to WoW Killer. I'm Garrett with Taliesin, as always.
Oh my god, Garrett. I just want to say that the difference in Garrett voice from 5 seconds before we started this podcast to that intro was profound. It was like a teacher being nice and then a teacher putting the class right, you know?
It's time,
you know,
it's time to go.
A teacher's telling a joke. A teacher is like, oh, I love my class. I love my class. And then the kid that they really hate starts messing around in the middle of the joke. And they're like, oh, I love my class. No, we don't do that, Kevin. No, we don't do that. It was exactly like that. It was that kind of change, maybe in reverse, but the difference was that marked. It was that profound.
This is like the most boring 5-second story ever. I had to answer the phone for my family when I was a kid. They ran a business out of their house. That is you have radio voice. I have answering the professional phone voice.
Wait, that's how you answered the professional phone?
Well, I mean, like if you could imagine like a 7-year-old
podcast host,
you can imagine a 7-year-old doing their best impression of like a professional voice. Hello.
I had a phone voice as well when I spoke to adults on the phone, and it was not like that. I was not like, oh, hi and welcome to whatever this business. It was, hello, welcome to the, nice to speak to you. Thank you very much. Yes, my name is Nick. I'm here to help you today.
You sound like a quest giver in Elwyn Forest.
Well, why do you think I ended up playing this stupid game? I'm just holding out for that gig.
It's the same concept, though.
So, you know, we should all look forward to the Garrett NPC, which would be like, oh, hi, and welcome to your quest. I want 10 bear hides here right now.
When you tell me it's showtime, it's just like, and the voice drops. It just drops.
I want to make this incredibly clear, Garrett. I'm impressed. I thought it was beautiful, and I wasn't mocking you in any way. I'm jealous. And I might well be adopting such a voice myself.
Nice. It's even easier in the morning because my vocal cords are low and I'm drinking hot drinks. It's how it works. Anyways, welcome back, everybody. This is WoW Killer, and today's episode we're getting back to the mailbag. We're taking your emails, and you can send those emails in by sending them to wowkillercast@gmail.com. That's right, you can be part of the show. And kicking us off today, Taliesin, is going to be Kat, spelt with a K. And Kat is horribly offended, if Kat's headline is to be believed. Kat writes,
good. We love offended people on this show.
Yes, I hope.
Excellent content. Or should I say, good. We love offended people on this show. It makes for excellent content. And I can't wait to hear your question.
Kat writes
I hope I can give you a good answer, Kat.
I can't. For listeners at home behind the curtain, I've been awake for 20 minutes. We had a time snafu today. Kat says, to whom it concerns, the most recent podcast, number 9, had horribly offended me. You deserve to know how offended I am. How dare you dislike space goats? What did they do to you? I'm not sure how one can dislike Russian space goats. The race probably wouldn't be so bad if they were not so gullible and naive. I do, however, agree on Malfurion. I think it's more infuriating that he's a druid and Tyrande is so cool and his brother is so cool, and then there is him. The whole running around with help me questline and losing Ysera, it only made it worse. I also wanted to state that I agree with Taliesin on the remark of Scottish accents for dwarves. It annoys me to no end, and I would have thought a more Fargo-esque accent would have been more fun. Can you imagine the A's and tapioca conversations? It have made the Magni quest a whole lot more enjoyable. Love your shows. Signed, Kat.
Well, Kat, that certainly is an interesting question, or should I say statement.
Why, yes, it certainly is. Now, I have a fake voice too, which is even worse. I love the idea that dwarves should sound like they're from the North Midwest. Like that would be amazing. I
would love it. I would just love anything that wasn't the standard Scottish dwarf. And we spoke at length about this and how I blame, obviously, Lord of the Rings for this, and how Lord of the Rings had the opportunity. There's nothing in the Lord of the Rings books or The Hobbit that suggests that they speak with Scottish accents. There's nothing that suggests that at all. Was Lord of the Rings the first instance that really kind of codified dwarves as having Scottish accents.
I'm trying to
kind of set it in stone. I think.
Taliesin, I cannot remember what Gimli sounded like in the old rotoscoped Lord of the Rings animation.
Oh,
that's what I'm trying to remember.
I need to know. And someone in the chat's going to know. Someone in the chat will know.
I would hope so.
Someone in the chat will let us know, definitely. But I don't think I'll ever forgive Lord of the Rings for doing that. And setting it in stone in like fantasy canon that dwarves have Scottish accents. And I might have mentioned this when we talked about it in episode number 9. It feels like about 5 years ago. But that beautiful moment in the Warcraft movie where is it Magni has a Cockney accent, like a proper London accent.
I believe it's Magni.
I think it's Magni, yeah. Because he's the king of the dwarfs, but he's also like making a gun for Lothar for no reason. He's like, it's a boomstick.
Well, because you needed to get boomstick in there.
Yeah, it's a boomstick. Shine your shoes, governor.
You needed to get your reference to boomstick from World of Warcraft, which I've always just considered a reference to Army of Darkness. You just need to get that in the movie. It has to be there.
Well, I appreciated it, and I appreciated the very deliberate step away from dwarves having Scottish accents in that, which is beautiful. And I hope for another Warcraft movie just so we can see an extension of that character and more. I'd like to think that all of the dwarves have Cockney accents and they all just sound like Jason Statham.
I just watched Hobbs and Shaw. Sure, why not?
But
no
wonder you're so happy. No wonder you didn't get any sleep last night. It's because you were so hyped after watching like the movie of the year. What a film.
Boy, that movie just kept happening. That movie just kept happening. That's my review of that. You didn't
like Hobbs and Shaw? Don't make me angry. That film is amazing.
And then I want Vrykul to be a playable race, and I want the males to be voiced by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And
okay, fair enough.
We get our Cockney accent, Jason Statham dwarves, and we get The Rock Vrykul, and those will just be the two characters that we finally roll together, Taliesin, and that'll be our best friendship in the game of World of Warcraft.
Yeah. There was this is only slightly off topic. There was a controversy in this country. It wasn't really a controversy. On the level of Susan Album Party. Do you remember Susan Album Party?
Is that a name, or is it someone named Susan having an album party?
There's a pop star called Susan Doyle. And she released an album, and the hashtag was Susan Album Party. Hashtag Susan Album Party. Write that down.
Okay, I will have to go down this rabbit hole at some point. Was that the story? Was that the story?
Write down Susan Album Party. Hashtag Susan Album Party. And tell me why that is a problem.
Oh, okay. I figured it out.
Anal Bum Party.
I didn't realize that. I thought you were telling me to write it down for like later, and I didn't realize.
No, Sue's Anal Bum Party. And that was the best thing that happened in 2009 or whenever it was. And this controversy was on a level with that. Samsung brought out a new, I think it was Samsung. They had a tagline which was "Do what you can't." And in this country, that didn't really work so well because in a London accent, it sounds like you're calling someone a C word. Do what you can't. Do what you can't.
All right. Wow.
It sounds like you've just offended Jason Statham in a pub. You're like, Jason Statham, why are you so bald? And he's gone, do what you can't. Do what you can't.
So it's like the third or seventh Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels movie, and
it's like, wonderful. Jason, why are you so small in real life? Do what you can't.
How many boxes did you have to stand on to talk to The Rock in any of the scenes? In well, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Back to Kat's email.
And that's why I'd like the dwarves to be British and Scotland is Britain, unfortunately, at the moment for them. But that's why I want them to be South London-y, and that's why I'd like them to be voiced by Jason Statham, please.
You really just want unintentional swearing by dwarf NPCs.
I mean, I'd take it.
Or intentional, maybe.
Yeah.
Kat, it's really nothing personal with Draenei. I'm sure I brought this up, but it really is for me just their running animation. They prance, and it's strange. It doesn't. Was it you that was having trouble with? It was definitely me. But was it? Do you like Draenei? Yes.
I could be on Draenei's side, or I could be completely against their very existence in the game, depending on what side of the bed I wake up, to be perfectly honest with you. Sometimes I think they're wonderful and round and blue and fantastic, and sometimes I think they're the worst thing in the world. I like them. I like their little hooves, and I like how blue they are. Do you know what I really don't like? I don't like their voices. I don't like their accents. They're kind of like, is it faux, like Eastern European accents?
To me, it's on par. Like if you're annoyed by the fakeness of the Scottish accents of the dwarves, the Russian accents of the Draenei are like, it's like when I do a Russian accent. Like it's really hammy.
Yeah, so. Kind of Slavic. Yeah, but it's fake, and that's the thing. They've never gone, because once the game started carrying on, and they stopped white people doing troll voices, and they got appropriate voice actors to do the troll voices, and that sounded better. And they've kind of done that with some dwarves, but not all of them. But they've never bothered doing that with Draenei. It's clearly still just American people doing bad Slavic accents for the Draenei, which is why some characters like Yrel sound so stupid.
I think we'll get there eventually, as they've been shoring up the quality of their. It's like when World of Warcraft started, it was just like, I don't know who's around the office. Okay, you.
Yeah, totally. And that's half the charm. That's absolutely fine. When you've got like animators doing the peons and stuff like that. And that's cool. That's really awesome. But after a while. And don't get me wrong, as far as the trolls were concerned, it was still always a little bit racist, but it was at least it was kind of like charming racist.
It felt aware of the fact that the accents were bad.
Yeah, it wasn't like an offensive racist. It was like a charming racist, like Boris Johnson or something like that.
Oh my God. Moving on, Evil Morty writes in. And says, "Good day, fellas."
Sorry, where was the question? Kat, where was your question? Did you hide a question in all that vitriol, Kat? Where was it? Where was the question?
It was more a hot take. Take. Yeah. And I figured you would want it on the show because Kat agreed with you on
Scottish of course accents. She did. Well, who wouldn't? On my own show, who wouldn't? I want to say this about the Draenei. I think they've got one of the best starting areas, and I will miss it when the Exiles Reach, the starting zone comes along. I think it's very racist.
I think the Blood Elves have a better starting area because they're Blood Elves and they're best race in the game. Morty.
No. The Draenei have such a great starting area. Azimist Isle, it's got like all the big American trees, and they've crash landed there, and they're they're all kind of like scrabbling together, and there are different little settlements of different people that have landed in different places. It's really cool. It's really good.
I do actually agree with you. I rather enjoy Azimist Isle. It's just that I'm usually Draenei and I'm prancing around, and I just go, who came up with this Ren animation? And I can't get past it, and I end the character before getting to 20. But hey, speaking of Blood Elves, I guess we're just going to do Burning Crusade new races today, because Evil Morty writes in and wants to talk about Blood Elves a little bit, and says, "Good day, fellas. Having watched Taliesin's latest video about new character customizations," great video, by the way. People just...
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Shucks.
A question came to mind for you, Garrett. Taliesin talks about possible High Elf customizations for Blood Elves, though he states he disagrees with this. And given you have a fondness for Blood Elves, what customization options are you hoping for them? And, well, are there any race customization options you're hoping for in Shadowlands? Personally, I hope for blue eyes for Blood Elves and Ranger Magister tattoos as well. Blue eyes for my Blood Elf Arcane Mage would be a perfect fit and makes sense lore-wise, as the Sunwell is a font of both holy and arcane energy. Tattoos from my Blood Elves... What?
No.
This
cannot happen, right? This is a video on itself. Okay, this is an episode on itself. Like, let's set the groundwork here, just in case anyone doesn't know. In Shadowlands, there's going to be lots of new customization options They apparently loads and loads and loads is what they've said. Like it's going to be a revolution in customization options. We've had some tantalizing glimpses, like wild hammer tattoos for dwarves, different skin tones for trolls, which make them like sand trolls or dark trolls. Dark trolls being particularly interesting because, as far as we knew, there were no dark trolls existing still in Azeroth, because dark trolls are, of course, what became night elves. The dark trolls settled around the Well of Eternity, and the magics from the Well of Eternity turned them into night elves. So we thought there were no more dark trolls left. There was one then in Zandalar in BFA claiming to be the last one, just like hanging about. So if trolls have dark troll skin tone options, that's like actually quite a weirdly big deal. And obviously the really obvious one is the undead models that are smooth, like seals, like an actual seal from the sea with no bones sticking out, just smooth and huggable. And the humans having like more recognizable racial variants as well, which is awesome, really, really good. And so that's like we've been promised loads more. So they've hinted the Blood Elves will be one of the big races that sees a lot of changes, or a lot of additions, and people have thought to themselves, well, would it be time to give them blue eyes so we could finally have our High Elves? And would that be something that you would like to see, Garrett? Blue eyes for Blood Elves?
I am all for more customization options, and I mean there's still High Elves running around, so like why not let players?
Okay, I'll tell you why not, Garrett. I knew you would get this wrong. I'll tell you why not. It's because when people and because people have been wanting to play High Elves for a very long time in game. And I made a whole video on this, and it's very important. And I'm not actually fussed either way, but I'm telling you now, if you were to add blue eye options to Blood Elves, it would kind of defy the entire point. Because when people say they want to play High Elves, they specifically don't mean Blood Elves. They mean, and let's have a quick history lesson here. The High Elves, the Highborn left Kalimdor after they were thrown out after the War of the Ancients for refusing to stop studying the arcane. So the Night Elves banned magical study in the arcane after the War of the Ancients, and War of the Ancients, the war against Sargeras and the Sundering. And they were like, no, we're going to carry on studying Arcane, actually. So we're going to get exiled, and we're going to go over the sea, which has just appeared, to the Eastern Kingdoms. And they sort of landed in the East, and they started making their way up to, eventually, Silvermoon. And, there's some little stops and stuff on the way. And over the millennia, they obviously, they were getting magic from other sources and stuff. And they, because, the Night Elves have the Moonwell. They didn't have anything like that. So they started getting smaller, to better survive on less resources, I guess. And became the High Elves, which physiologically are exactly the same as the Blood Elves. But they had blue or purple eyes. That's very important. The Blood Elves weren't a thing yet. When they eventually settled in Silvermoon and sort of everywhere in between, it wasn't until Arthas came along with the Scourge and created the Great Scar and killed basically all of them, and killed 90% of the Blood Elves. And the remaining 10% after the Third War were like, oh man, that sucked. That was like a major thing in our history. In fact, we're going to have to call ourselves, it sucked so much, we're not even High Elves anymore. We're Blood Elves, to better portray how upset we are about that, all that stuff in the Third War. And they became the Blood Elves. But not all of them did. Of that remaining 10% of the High Elves that got decimated, only 90% became Blood Elves, and 10% didn't become Blood Elves at all. They remained loyal to the Alliance, because part of the thing about becoming Blood Elves was like, oh, the Alliance abandoned us and they didn't come to our aid during the Scourge Invasion and things like that. But 10% of those elves never became Blood Elves in the first place, and they stayed either independent or within their kind of settlements and alliances within the Alliance. So the Blood Elves then started drawing their power from Fel, which is why they have green eyes. And then eventually in BFA, the moon, the Sunwell got like fixed. And now that's why you can have gold eyes to them again. But when people say they want to play High Elves, they specifically mean the elves that didn't become Blood Elves. Whether they're on Alliance or not, but they certainly wouldn't be Horde. And that's specifically what people mean when they say they want to play High Elves. They only mean that they want to play the ones that canonically and in the lore did not become Blood Elves in the first place. So when Ian says that Blood Elves are High Elves, he's not completely wrong, but he is kind of wrong. It's kind of like saying that people from like Montenegro are Yugoslavian. Do you know what I mean? They're not. I mean, yeah, if you went back a few years, they kind of are, but they created their own thing, and like, you know, it's really strange, and so that's what people mean when they say they want to be High Elves. They want to be the elves that specifically didn't become Blood Elves, didn't start drawing their power from Fel, and found other ways around it.
So is your key abrasion to this topic that you would be a High Elf fighting for the Horde?
No, you wouldn't, and that's precisely it. Like, the thing is, High Elves, like, they do still exist, you know, alongside Blood Elves. And in fact, if you go back to the Suramar campaign, and if you go to the bit where Elisande makes her appearance in 7.1, she literally addresses the Blood Elves and the Night Elves and the High Elves, led by Alleria. Not Alleria, by who's the High Elf leader? I forget her name. The other Windrunner sister, the third Windrunner sister.
Oh,
the rubbish one. Like, yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
Like Luke Hemsworth. She's the Luke Hemsworth one. Verisa, thank you.
My God.
And she's the head of the High Elves. She's the head of like the Silver Covenant, and she's like, the High Elves are a recognized separate fighting force from the Blood Elves, and they're more aligned with the Alliance than they are the Horde. But even Elisande, who'd been locked up for 1,000 years, could see the difference. And they were standing there in 3 separate groups. And she was like, Blood Elves, you're rubbish for these reasons. Night Elves, you're rubbish for these reasons. And High Elves, you're rubbish for these reasons. So when Ian says like that Blood Elves are High Elves, he obviously like just forgot this part of the game that happened and that he approved and that he put the stamp on. Like, they are a completely different thing, and it's that faction that people mean when they say they want to play High Elves. Because yeah, obviously, physiologically, Blood Elves are genetically exactly the same as High Elves, in the same way that orcs, green orcs, are exactly the same physiologically as Maga orcs, but they're still different. So yeah, in terms of playable options.
I want a very simple answer from you, because I don't think you answered my question. So I will ask you again. Is it just that you would be on the Horde? If you could, is that the problem?
No, it's that they would be an option for Blood Elves. It's like High Elves are not like an option of Blood Elves. They are a separate thing. So if in the same way that Void Elves aren't an option for Blood Elves, they are a separate thing.
Well, I understand that to a degree. What I'm trying to get out of you is the answer of like, what would make you happy if we could play as High Elves? They would have to not be a customization option for Blood Elves. You know, you could put them on the Horde if you really want, although that's not going to make anyone happy. But they have to be a separate option. They can't just be my Blood Elf can just be a High Elf, because that doesn't work. Okay.
So in the same way that your orc who came through the Dark Portal can't just be a Maga orc. They have different backgrounds and different lore.
But what if they're just trying to make things easier on themselves? Because the models wouldn't be any different. And
that doesn't make anything easier, because like lore-wise, it's a complete mess and it doesn't work.
What if you click the blue eyes and suddenly your banner goes from Horde to Alliance, and it's like, sorry, you clicked the blue eyes, you're only Alliance now. And they're just trying to make the interface options a little. They're just trying to make the interface options a little bit easier.
Someone's saying they should make it a Void Elf customization, to which I would say no, because Void Elves are actually the furthest elf race removed from High Elves. Think about it. You had Night Elves who then evolved into High Elves, and then some High Elves turned into Blood Elves, and then some Blood Elves turned into Void Elves. And High Elves are still there, back alongside Blood Elves, or even before Blood Elves.
So you're right. Yeah, you're right. Void Elves are kind of, I guess, the most recent along the evolutionary line.
Void Elves are an evolution of Blood Elves specifically. They didn't come from High Elves at all. There's an argument that now that they've been established, that like other elves from other kind of strands could join. But all you got to do is like be awesome with the Void and be able to turn all blue and stuff. Yeah. So there's no reason why you could. But the original Void Elf guy, and those guys, it was Umbric, wasn't it? They were very specifically, in Ian's own words, a crack elite squad of Blood Elves who went their own way and started studying the Void. Now, well, this is complicated because Alleria is technically their leader, and she is indeed a High Elf. But she became like a Void Elf in a very different way.
Okay. Well, this conversation makes me want to go down another road and open up a completely different, and I think much larger, can of worms. But it just so happens that can of worms also ties into the next email. So
handy.
So
wait, you never answered the question. What Blood Elf customizations you'd like to see?
Oh, well,
I kind of went off on one a little bit, but that was the question.
Well, with Evil Morty, I think let's just have tattoos for like all races. Like, why not? Why not just have tattoos exist within the world of Warcraft? So why not just offer it for everyone? Why can't everyone just get inked? Okay. Also, like, can we get like a good beard for Blood Elves, please? For the love of God, they have the saddest.
I feel like hair and beard options will be the big ones.
Yeah. I want some really trendy undercuts. Like they need those. They need those. Maybe awesome. A few more Dragon Ball Z variations would be nice. We only have 2 at the moment. I would like, maybe like a Super Saiyan 3, like a big ridiculous, like multiple racks of bananas just cascading down their back. But I really want like a full beard. I need a full bearded. I want a majestic wizard beard for my mage.
I think you will be happy because I think that's going to happen. I think beard and hair options, and I don't know, for female characters, nice necklaces or earrings or something.
I want more.
I still think I'd like to see beards for female dwarfs now. To be honest,
why
not?
No pushback.
Not even as a joke. That is not even an April Fool's Day joke. I'd be happy.
I don't think you're joking, and I am with you. I will sign your change.org petition.
Thank you.
Yeah. I would really like that. Also, like, just give me more scars and everything too. Like, just all of that.
If I can make a Blood Elf who basically looks exactly like Lorthamar, his new model, that'd be very nice.
Yes,
that'd be awesome. And also, I just like to be able to choose my eye color without it dictating what face I have. I'd like to have eye color not intrinsically linked to face choice. I'd like to be able to choose my face, and then I'd like to be able to choose my eye color, and that'd be really nice.
I haven't made a new Death Knight. Have they finally changed that too? Because there's the unique Death Knight tints, but you only get them, I think, on 3 of the faces.
Oh yeah. It's hard. So yeah, they are. It has been confirmed that the eye color thing is one of the things that's definitely happening. So I can't wait. Very exciting.
Well, this does lead me down a much larger can of worms, as I mentioned, and it kind of ties into what Palantir from Emerald Dream wrote in about, which is, hi guys, really like the show. Please keep it up. My question, did you think BFA was leading to the end of the faction war and an introduction to cross-faction grouping? Do you see a future when this happens as the devs do more and more to get you playing with your friends? Faction seems like a sore thumb. Cross-faction grouping, zone scaling, party sync, war mode. Only barrier left is faction and I suppose region. Replaying BFA on an alt and Sourfang's breaking the cycle seemed like this was going to happen. Still puzzled why it didn't. Thanks and keep it up. Well, it didn't, Palantir, because Ian Hazakastas is wrong again. In my opinion.
Did you think it was going to happen?
Yes, because all of Warcraft's history is both factions teaming up across faction lines to defeat a bigger bad. So when 2 very, very charming people hosted the last BlizzCon World of Warcraft Q&A, I audibly booed when Ian Hezekiah said that wasn't going to happen, and then started ranting next to Patrick Beja, who was just like, "Come on, man!" I'm like, "No, I'm sorry, Ian Hezekiah. Have you ever heard any story from Warcraft? Because this happens all the time. The faction divide is about as flaky a line to draw as a line that didn't exist in the first place."
Truth. I actually totally agree. And I thought with certainty that there was some big change coming. And that's what BFA was kind of setting up with the whole kind of Saurfang storyline. And with the breaking of the circle and so much being given to that. And the fact that we were all having to team up to defeat N'Zoth and et cetera, et cetera. And the fact that if you're going to have the faction war expansion, then to make that worthwhile, because every expansion is the faction war expansion, but this one is really the faction war expansion. Then I felt like the only way to kind of get away with that and the only way to justify having all that was to have a proper payoff at the end, and for that to be a fundamental change in the way that factions worked. At first, it looked like there might be a third faction on its way. I remember lots of people speculating about that towards the beginning of the expansion. It certainly seemed like maybe they were setting up an undead faction, and that maybe the Forsaken were kind of break away from the Horde. And an undead third faction would be a very obvious thing to do, because you could just have all the existing races, but an undead version. So you could have all of the Horde races and all of the Alliance races, but they were undead.
Which also is my real answer to Evil Morty's question of what customization options you want. I want undead races for every race in existence.
Oh, well, you should watch our new video. Anyway, that looked like it was definitely going to happen. And, it certainly looked like it was being hinted at, sort of big style. And then the undead started kind of losing faith in Sylvanas as the expansion went along. It's like, okay, well, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But now with the whole Saurfang thing and the breaking the circle and blah, 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 it certainly seems like maybe they're setting up an end to factions, which would, in the short term, like in terms of an expansion, it would certainly be a big enough payoff to the whole faction war expansion. In my eyes, that'd be really good. And then I thought, because Ian, in what he said in the Q&A, he's got a point. The whole game is kind of based on the faction war. It is kind of based on Horde versus Alliance. It's like a really important thing to have in the game. So my thinking then kind of evolved into, okay, well, I still think there needs to be a fundamental change in the way that Horde and Alliance work and the factions work in WoW to justify this whole faction war expansion. So maybe we'll see, as is being suggested in game, a loosening of the restrictions. So maybe, Blood Elves and Tauren and some other races, maybe Forsaken as well with the Kalia stuff, maybe they could choose to be, there'll just be more neutral races in a way. Races that get to choose which side they're going to be on. So you create a Tauren and you do your starting area and it's Horde, but then like the Pandaria, you get a choice whether to go over to Horde or the Alliance.
Or maybe after you've put... We're getting that like island starting zone anyway, right? So we're already getting a significantly more agnostic starting experience.
Yeah, for sure. Or to make it work more with the lore, maybe, and to make it kind of allied racy in a way, maybe you'd have to play through BFA and play through the content in BFA or at least get past the content in BFA to then be able to make the choice of what faction you're going to choose. So that you're in that timeline then. Once you're in sync with the timeline and you've done BFA, then you get, it's in BFA that the faction stuff all changes. So you get to BFA and then you get to choose. Like if you're a Tauren, you get to choose between Horde and Alliance. So if you're a gnome, you get to choose between Horde and Alliance or whatever. And I thought that might be a genuine thing. I thought that might be a genuine thing, that they would just loosen the restrictions on faction exclusivity, I guess.
Yeah, I would really like to see it. I understand the hesitation, but like the other thing too is when WoW Classic launched, I'm like, cool, we have that now. If we want to go back to old school hardcore faction division, that game exists. Let's move the needle. Let's do something kind of revolutionary, at least within the confines of World of Warcraft. like this, I don't know, I could talk about this could be its entire own episode. Like there's so many ways I think you could approach it. You hit on some of them, which is like you don't need to make it like not all races need to have the option. It doesn't need to be like, I don't know. I wouldn't even mind if like PvP was off the table. Like, sorry, you can't go into battlegrounds cross faction, but like dungeons and raids, there's just no reason. No one has levied at me an argument that I think makes any sense for why my orc buddy can't come hang out with my alliance raid or vice versa.
I think if there ever was an argument for that, I think it got blown out of the water the second that Blood Elves became Horde. Like the second Blood Elves were okay teaming up with trolls. Like lore-wise and canonically, there's no reason why anyone can't team up with anyone.
No, and frankly, like I definitely lean more towards just blow it up territory. In my opinion, I think like why have any restrictions? Where's the RPG in this? There are all these races. We've seen so many different races within World of Warcraft go the other side for one reason or another. Why not just let me, the player, decide my own weird backstory that's important to me and no one else? It doesn't matter, and just send that character where I want to send them.
I feel like we have very different reasons for wanting loosening on restrictions for factions. I feel like you just want to be able to play with whatever faction you want and team up with whoever you want and things like that. Whereas for me, it's very much more based in what I would see as an underwhelming payoff for the faction story in BFA. I feel like for BFA to have happened and for there not to have been a fundamental change in the way the factions work feels like a missed opportunity to me. And it feels like a non-follow through of where the story was going, and it feels like a bit like a cop out, if I'm completely honest. So for me, it's much more like a lore thing, and I feel like that's why it should be happening. And like, yeah, I like killing Horde or Alliance, depending what side I happen to be playing that day, wherever I am, and showing my faction colors. And I wouldn't want to lose that. So in that respect, I do agree with Ian. And but for me, it's just because of the story that was told for me. So I think you just prefer it from a mechanics point of view, and for me, it's more a story thing.
For me, it's both, because it really has been strong in my mind because of BFA, because I really did believe that's where it was going. So I'm with you in that sense. I don't know. This sounds more dramatic than I want it to be, but it's like, then what was the point of this? Like for BFA?
No, I think that's a fair thing to say. I think that's a very fair question.
For what ended up being, I think, a little on the vanilla side, outside of N'Zoth's coming, in my opinion. Like, why? Like, where is the payoff, for lack of a better?
Well, I think the devs would say that, we've seen a change in the Horde leadership. They now have a war council. We've seen the abolishment of the war chief. There is no more war chief, nor will there be. You know, if you've completed N'Zoth on a Horde character and then you've gone to see the RP that happens in Orgrimmar and the creation of the war council, then that is a major lore moment, which not everyone has actually seen. And certainly no one who only plays exclusively Alliance. I mean, that is a major shake-up in the way that the Horde works, that they have a war council now. And I'm interested to see what story they can make out of that and what lore can come out of that. For Alliance, there's deep divisions in the Alliance at the end of this expansion, which weren't there at the beginning. Whereas the beginning of the expansion saw Alliance coming together and kind of helping those amongst them who were getting hurt the most. You know, the great rescue operation from Teldrassil, and the way the Gilneans and the humans really like stepped up and helped them there, even though if they got fooled into having their forces elsewhere. But the great kind of humanitarian, for want of a better word, sort of effort that the Alliance began the expansion with, after a lot of lows in BFA and only a couple of highs. Like, we're looking at a situation now where Tyrande is in kind of like open revolt against the Alliance. She's finally realized that, hey, wait, why am I taking orders from an 18-year-old boy? Just because, like, I'm literally 10,000 years old. I've been winning massive wars, bigger than this war, since before this kid's dad was born. Like, why am I taking orders from him? This hereditary leadership of the Alliance sucks. It's really bad. Velen, what do you think about this? And Velen's like, and so she's kind of gone like, look, I'm not going to sign any peace treaty with. Oh, that's the other thing. There is a peace treaty that's been signed. And she's saying, I'm not going to sign any peace treaty while Sylvanas is still out there and the Horde haven't bothered bringing her to justice, blah, blah, blah. And she storms off. And maybe more importantly than that, Greymane is on her side and is like, dude, Anduin, she's got a point. Like, we can't abandon them. Like, they saved all of us Gilneans when all that shit went down. And, you know, so there is fractures in the Alliance right now, which we know will be explored in Shadowlands, because we know Tyrande has an important storyline in the Night Fae zone in Shadowlands, in Ardenweald. And lots of speculation that that's going to see her become a baddie and like a raid boss. For me, it'll be the opposite, and that'll be where she finds her peace and comes back to the Alliance. But it's still a storyline to be kind of explored. So, I mean, there are big, meaningful changes that have happened in the factions at the end of BFA, is what the devs would say. But for me, it needed something more obvious and more immediate, I think.
Yeah, that's all well and good, and you know I love lore, but I wanted to see something that actually affected the way we play World of Warcraft.
Yeah, exactly.
The gameplay of it, and yeah, again, I clearly this is something I feel very strongly about. Like, so yeah.
Well, I think when there are, you know, when you queue for LFR or you queue for a dungeon or something, and you're a DPS, and it comes up and it tells you you've got an hour wait. Like, it's quite hard to kind of justify, you know, not teaming up. You know, we just, especially when it's Ny'alotha, okay? You've just been told that, oh, the reason we've had to go and get rid of Sylvanas is not because she was killing people. It's not because she was genociding people. It's not because she had like a big dagger or whatever. The reason we were given that why we had to get rid of Sylvanas was because she will stop us teaming up against N'Zoth. And we need to team up against N'Zoth. And that was literally the reason given for getting rid of Sylvanas. So where is the reasoning for not allowing Horde and Alliance to team up and go into Ny'alotha? Like, we literally just got rid of a war chief so that we could team up. But if you're going to Ny'alotha, you're going in either Horde or Alliance. Like, no mixing. And that just seems silly to me. So yes. If ever there was and this is the bad news for you, if ever there was a time to get rid of the kind of faction restrictions or loosen them or change them in any way, that would have been the time to do it. This would have been the time to do it. And the fact that they haven't done it now means that they will never, ever do it, Garrett.
Or Siege of Orgrimmar. Or Ice Crown Citadel. I would argue basically any raid except for the oh my god, brain. The Zandalar raid. Freaking, what was the name of that? That is the only raid I think we're teaming up doesn't make sense.
Oh, Dazar'alor.
Dazar'alor.
Yeah, sure.
Literally the only raid that doesn't make sense. Any other raid.
Ironically, that's the raid which it has kind of like more cross-faction stuff than anything, because you actually get to play as the other faction.
Yeah, that's different. It's not teaming up.
And I love it. But no, exactly. But, you know, all the examples you've given are, you know, the factions going, okay, human, well, I don't like you, but this is a big threat. So we're going to have to team up. But don't you try anything or there'll be trouble. Don't worry, Orc. We don't trust you either, but we appreciate that this needs to be done. And like, you know, that was always kind of
Legion, class halls.
Yeah,
like,
totally. And that was always the vibe for those. Whereas this one in BFA was so much more than that. This one was literally, we need to team up to get rid of N'Zoth, but we can't, not while Sylvanas is our war chief. That's right, Orc. We must team up and get rid of Sylvanas specifically so we can team up against N'Zoth. And it's like, dudes, come on, team up then! Team up then!
You're like, it's not even that. It's just like, whoa, we can't team up because when I right-click on you, there is no invite option. It is literally just interface.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only thing stopping us.
And I really liked what they did with the Siege of Orgrimmar 2.0. I thought it was actually really clever, and the mechanics of it were really good, and the Sylvanas Loyalist stuff was really good as well. And I felt like if they were ever going to make a change, that would have been it. But the bad news is they didn't do it, Garrett. So sucks to be you, I guess.
Yeah. I thought it was going to happen back in Siege of Orgrimmar. So yeah, I've been beating this drum for a while, but I'm certain we will have this conversation again in the future.
Well, someone mentions Light and Void in the comments, and I think that's a total goer. We made a video almost 3 years ago now, speculating this exact same thing. That I get the feeling once the Shadowlands is all done, the big storyline that WoW is building up to, now that the Burning Legion is taken care of, and the old gods supposedly are taken care of on Azeroth as well. Once the Shadowlands is taken care of and sorted out, and Sylvanas has been given her role in the Shadowlands where she'll stay for eternity, and it'll be kind of like tragic but also kind of good. And it'll be kind of like a punishment but also kind of like a redemption. Once we've moved on from all of that, the big thing is the thing that kind of was established in the opening pages of Chronicle 1, which is clearly where all of this is heading, which is Light versus Void. Like, that is the big fight that's happening in the WoW universe. And we've said it on this show before. I've said it, like, we make a big thing of the Titans and the Burning Legion and stuff, but in the grand scheme of things, the Titans are very insular and very benevolent, and they're important to us because we live on the Titan. But if we lived on any of the 99.9999 infinity% of planets that aren't Titans, we'd never have even seen them. We'd never have even, met them. They wouldn't be a part of our story in our lives at all. The big thing that's happening in the WoW universe is the Light versus the Void, and that's you've seen that creeping in with Urel and like the Naru stuff happening in Legion. You've seen it creeping in with Xalatath and more kind of exploration into Void stuff in BFA. And I think if there is ever kind of another kind of faction change that will be coming, it will be kind of like a really intense Scryer's Aldor thing where you choose between the Light and the Void. And so your factions are still a thing, but if you are, so you can always say, okay, so say you're Alliance and Horde, but you also get to choose between Light and Void of who you fight for, okay? So it works like a kind of a covenant system. And that's like the covenant you choose. You choose the Light or the Void, and that dictates your story. It dictates your like progression system, just like covenants are going to work in Shadowlands. Weird how that would match up really well, like almost like it's kind of trying it out. And you choose that, and so your faction still exists within that, but then you can also team up with anyone from the other faction who is also in your covenant. So your alliance, you choose the Light, obviously, because you're a dweeb. So you can still team up with any alliance when you go and do dungeons and stuff, but you can also team up with any horde who chose Light. So it increases your options by about 50% rather than doubling them.
Would it also cut your options though for your same faction that chose the other?
But I never said that you couldn't team up with other alliance who were Void. I just said that you could team up with Horde who were Light.
Whatever gets us there, man. I'm for it. I'm going to agree with you if it gets us even half a step closer to any sort of cross faction. I want it from a lore perspective and also just a gameplay and ease of use perspective. Like I'm as someone who plays on both factions and the faction line is irrelevant to me. I just want to play with my friends on both sides conveniently.
Yeah, I'm not quite so bothered by that, but cool. Speaking as someone who has an EU account and a US account, but obviously has like a lot of friends because of the channel and stuff, and people I want to play with both in Europe and the US, like that kind of a regional divide, I can't play with my US friends on my EU account and vice versa. Is a much bigger problem to me than the Horde and Alliance.
Yes,
personally. Yes. Like, I mean, that's if we're just talking mechanical things to sort out so we can all play together. That's the big one for me, and I've been told off the record that will never happen.
It certainly seems like a major infrastructure barrier for all of Blizzard games. Like every single one of them.
Well, no, I mean, because I can just skip regions when I'm playing Overwatch. I can just skip to on the same account.
Any of your stuff carry over?
Yeah, I think so.
Because it doesn't on any other Blizzard game. My hero collection in Heroes of the Storm doesn't carry over if I switch to EU.
Really?
My card collection in Hearthstone doesn't come over if I switch to EU.
But the fact that you can just switch it is already 100% more convenient than WoW, because if I can't just switch to a US account from my EU account on WoW, I have to buy WoW again on the US.
I mean,
I have to pay a separate subscription. I have to there's literally nothing that carries over there. They're two different castles on two different islands, and like the very fact that you can switch over means it's not the same.
I mean, that's essentially the same as Hearthstone and Heroes, because you need to buy in if you want to have access to anything that makes you competitive. WoW is definitely worse because you also have to level
those
up.
are free-to-play games, I guess. But Overwatch, I don't have to buy the US box to play on a US server.
Then Overwatch is extremely unique in the way that it exists within the realm of regional divides in Blizzard games.
Yeah. Especially since we've established that they can do worldwide releases, and I've been told that it could happen that you could transfer a character or something from the EU to the US, but every single transfer like that would have to be done manually, which is just not worth the money. And the idea of being able to play together just wouldn't happen at all.
Well, then what's the price tag is what I would ask you, because I might want to pay it. Or
they might want you to just buy the box in the EU and pay a separate second subscription. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, let's take one more email and then get you out of here. I know you've got a heart out today, Tally. Fraser writes in and says, "Hi guys, love the show. After the fabulous Warbringer cinematics for BFA, my question is, which characters do you think will get their own build up to Shadowlands? Bolvar, obviously. Who else? And who gets the one with the awesome sea shanty? Warm regards, Fraser."
Who gets the song?
If I feel like Bolvar would be the most likely candidate for.
I don't think Bolvar's going to get a Warbringer.
You don't think really?
I don't think Bolvar will. I think Bolvar is Saurfang. So Saurfang didn't get a Bolvar.
That's a good point.
Bolvar gets the CGI cinematic series throughout the expansion. Like Bolvar is the one Bolvar is the one every major patch, the new CGI cinematic comes out, like the new photorealistic cinematic comes out, just like it did with Saurfang, expanding that story. And the new chapter of the Bolvar campaign, which is the campaign where you'll be putting back together the Helm of Domination and stuff like that. So it's an important storyline. It's a B plot, but it's a really important B plot, much like Saurfang. So that's Bolvar's role in Shadowlands, as far as I'm concerned. So I don't think he will be a Warbringer or a Shadow Harbinger or whatever they'll be called or something. And I want to know who that will be. I want to know who the comics will be about in the lead up to it as well. I'm interested.
Who is leading our foray into the Shadowlands?
No, I don't think it needs to be. I don't think it needs to be that at all. Look at who has had Harbinger and Warbringer cinematics before. Sylvanas wasn't really a Harbinger, or wasn't really a Warbringer, because it was actually part of the questing. And it actually was seen as part of the questing. And that's the only time that's ever happened. It was seen as part of the questing first. That was the first time people saw it. All the others have been released as separate standalone things and then appeared in the game later on. Right. Sylvanas was the one that appeared in game first. And that's the only time that's ever happened. I think Talia will get one.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Because I think obviously Talia and Bolvar are going to have some stuff going on in this expansion. So I feel like Talia will get one. I feel like Tyrande will get one. Setting up her disillusion with the Alliance and going, well, I'm going to go into the Shadowlands myself and get to the bottom of this, of why Elune abandoned us.
I would like to point out that they made a huge turn for Jaina, and then we just didn't do anything with it for multiple expansions. So there is a chance that they just shelved Tyrande for a couple of years.
Well, but we know she's got an important storyline in Shadowlands.
Yeah.
So we know that already. So that's done. So I think Tyrande certainly. I'd like to see Talia and Kalia. Kalia would be the one who I think would certainly get something going into Shadowlands because she's too perfect. You know, she's like a new type of undead. She's helping the Night Elf Forsaken Rangers who were raised after Teldrassil. Her and Derek are helping them kind of find their peace. And like, if it was a Warbringer that kind of focused on her and Derek, like, and them teaching the Night Elf Forsaken how to kind of live with themselves and how to accept themselves and their new situation. And they're really making progress. And then suddenly the new Scourge invasions start. Well, that's quite a nice little kind of jumping off point. That's quite a nice sort of like setup right there. So I could see that being a storyline they pursue.
We've got to get some Greymane in here, right? Like, because I feel Greymane and his like blood feud with Sylvanas, like that ball felt dropped to me at the end of BFA. Like it kind of, I was very surprised that like to me, like I really like I don't want to discount how much I really liked what they did with Sourfang, but it just seemed like that should have been Greymane. There's still a thing in the back of my mind that goes, why wasn't Greymane the one, you know, facing off against?
I think it's quite important for them to have a Horde character do it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just like Alliance ruffle stomping the Horde again.
Yeah. But it's like there was so much of that.
I get your point.
Like it was an entire zone story in Legion was freaking Greymane's hunt of Sylvanas, and then Greymane's just kind of hanging out behind Anduin, all hulked out in wolf form for all of BFA, and
well, except when he knew that they were actually going to face off against Sylvanas, at which point he went, "I'll go and guard the back door."
Yeah, that's.
It's like, are you sure, Greymane? Because like Sylvanas is about to come out. Like we're Sourfang's literally about to call Sylvanas out. Maybe you want to stay. Oh, I'll go and guard the back door. Okay, and then we go and tell him that Sylvanas was there and she escaped, and he's like, "Oh, what?" It's like, dude,
it's almost.
What
like
did you expect? You were guarding the back door, dude.
It's almost
you could have sent anyone to do that.
There's probably too many characters to actually give all of the different arcs justice.
No, you just do an Avengers thing. You have them all land like this. And then you go along the line. That's all you need. That's all you need.
But then we need to. But then you need to get a you call.
And then you have Greymane going, "Hello, Peter Parker. I'm Greymane." Like it's easy. Anyone could do that.
And then we're using our made up names.
Well, I think Greymane would probably pop up in the Tyrande Warbringer if that was the thing. How's this? The new novel is very much a team-up novel. Okay, there are 3 storylines going through the new novel, Shadows Rising, and each of those storylines focuses on a pairing of characters: Zappy Boy and Talanji. Nathanos and the Ranger woman, the Sentinel woman, I should say, the Warden woman, I should say. What's her name? Name escapes me just now. And who's the other pairing in that book? But anyway, it focuses on 3 different pairings of characters. So why wouldn't the new Warbringers for Shadowlands, take a similar approach? Like maybe one will be Tyrande and Greymane, and Tyrande and Greymane is trying to talk Tyrande down. Oh, it's Maeve. Thank you. Yeah. And Tyrande's trying to talk Greymane down, and Greymane is like. Greymane's trying to talk Tyrande down, and Tyrande's like, "No, Greymane, you don't understand. I have to find this out for myself." And he's like, "Oh, I understand your pain, but blah, 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 blah." And that'd be awesome. And then Talia and Anduin, and maybe it's Anduin telling Talia, like, what happened to Bolvar. And her reaction to that initially going, "My father is a monster," and something like that. And Anduin's like, "No, you must not judge him." And she's like, "No, how can I not?" And it's like, "Oh no, she hates her dad just in time for Shadowlands. That's going to be awkward." And the third pairing being Kalia and Derek and their work with the Night Elf Forsaken. And Derek's like, wow, Kalia, I didn't think it could be done, but you've done amazing work with these Night Elf Forsaken. And Kalia's like, thank you, Derek. I think finally, despite how delicate their temperament is, we are just this close to making sure that they're all... Oh no, it's the Scourge invasion. Oh no, that's blown it. That's what I think it will be. I've just predicted the 3 Warbringers, word for word. That's exactly what's going to happen. Mark my words.
Consider them marked.
Yeah.
Yep, we're gonna bring this back around. We're gonna dig this up. Somebody clip this now and send it to me so that I can play it when Warbringers comes out. And it's just it, and all of them are about just Bolvar. They're all about Bolvar.
Thank you. Sorry, Syrah is the raised warden. Thank you. It's Nathanos and Syrah, and it's I forget who the third pairing in that book is though.
I am pretty ignorant to the previews they've given of the book. So I wouldn't have been able to.
Alaria and Turalian, of course. Alaria and Turalian is the other pairing in that book. So yeah, they're obviously into the team ups right now, and I think that's what they'll do with the Warbringers. Unless you disagree, what do you think?
I really thought Bolvar was going to be one of them, and we've already had that disagreement. Tyrande was very high on my list, and you already mentioned her. It sure seems like she should get a pretty big spotlight.
Yeah, I think that's the most certain of all 3 of those predictions that I made there.
Yeah,
for sure. Anyone else that I didn't mention?
I feel like someone we're going to meet exclusively in the Shadowlands. So someone from WoW's past that we're going to meet. Like Uther seems like he's probably going to be just tied to one zone, so I don't think that'll be one of them. But it would. There's so many options. I'm not really sure who I would zero in on, and so it's probably not correct because it certainly seems like our constant throughout all of the zones in Shadowlands will be Bolvar. But
it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if they did have a Warbringer with Bolvar.
Yeah,
to be honest, but I think they'll definitely do the Saurfang thing with him. Yeah, and that will make me think that maybe not.
I think that's very likely. So, but that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you, everybody, for writing in. Keep them coming, by the way. wowkillercast@gmail.com. That's how you can write in, be a part of the show when we do these mailbag episodes. If you want to watch us on YouTube instead of listening to us in audio-only form, you can head on over to youtube.com/wowkiller. It is its own unique channel. I believe we just surpassed 500 subs, so thank you, everybody, for subbing over there.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, just got the little notification in the inbox.
Nice.
Yeah, but
happy days. Thanks, guys.
Taliesin, before you go, where can folks find you if they want to hear something other than WoW Killer?
Taliesin and Evitel on YouTube and on Twitch and on Twitter too. See you there.
Brad, go check it out.
I can't wait to see you all there.
I'm Garrett Art on Twitter, amove.tv for all of the things. There's a lot of Hearthstone going on right now, so go subscribe to The Angry Chicken because we're getting a new ladder today and a new expansion next week. So go subscribe to that. Huge thanks to Andrew Allen for our intro and outro music. Go check out his work over at andrewallenmusic.com. That'll wrap it up for this episode of WoW Killer. We'll see you next week. But until then,
I like the mailbox episodes, Garrett. I think they're good.
They're fun, and listeners do
once a month
all the work for us.
They're harmless, aren't they? They're good fun.
They are.
See, we wouldn't have talked about half that stuff, would we? But here we are.
Probably eventually with a long enough runway, we may have touched on a lot of these, but not all in the same episode. So thank you, listeners.
Exactly. And thanks, listeners. Thanks, Kat and the others.
We will see you next week, everybody. Good luck and have fun. Coratirum in the chat room. England just had their time change, so it's just a hellacious change of everything in terms of time. We have not had a consistent time for probably 3 weeks.
Because Garrett is a dude. He goes by my time to make this show. So for me, it's been the same time every single week. But I appreciate for our cousins across the pond, the time will have changed, and sorry about that.
Well, you need to go, so go, and we'll just Twitter DM about.
I've got some important stuff I need to do before stream today, so I'm sorry I couldn't stick around much today, but it's been awesome. That was actually a good episode. I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was good fun.
Too. We went to some great places. Go do what you got to do.
Thank you for getting up earlier than you thought you were going to, and sorry for not reminding you about the time zone change.
Well, I got up exactly when I meant to. I just ran very quickly into the studio. That's about the only change I did.
You're a legend. That's why you're the best guest.
All right, man. You have a good one. Stream.
By far.
You're awesome.
You're the guest I would choose above all the other guests we've had on this show. But don't tell the other guests that.
The feeling is you're the permanent host.
Oh, apart from Peculiar, we had her once. I'd choose her over you. But apart from that...
What if I got a collection of dresses that were as awesome as Peculiar's?
Well, I'd need both of you to be here in that case.
So
we can have a dress off.
So has me beat on the dressed well category.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's a stylish lady. But you're a stylish man. Look at that hat.
Oh, yeah, look at that hat. It's
really
people
good.
were dumping on my hat again last week, man. They were dumping on my hat again.
What, and you still put it on your head after it had been dumped on?
Oh, this is a different hat. This is a different hat.
Oh.
It's a different hat. It's the one that you dumped on me for because you said I looked like a cabbie.
Oh, your fat cat.
Yeah.
Do what you can't.
All right, I'm ending the stream. Bye, stream. You were awesome.